Carter, 16. Born beneath the ponderosa pines of Flagstaff, Arizona, where the mountains cut the sky and the air carries both campfire smoke and the scent of impending drought. Mom says it used to feel like a secret resort town. Now every July day crackles with heat warnings and wildfire sirens. Dad left when I was 6, so most nights it's just Mom's tired shoes crossing the linoleum and the refrigerator humming overtime while she chases 2 jobs and a dream that my grades might buy me college. Meanwhile, I scroll TikTok until dawn, searching for a version of myself that matters only to feel emptier the second the screen goes dark. School paints me invisible. I'm not the quarterback, not the drama lead, not the straight A prodigy. I'm the kid who counts heartbeats before presentations, the one who vanishes into hoodies and headphones. Panic attacks visit like uninvited ghosts, squeezing my lungs, just long enough to remind me life can embarrass you in front of everyone. My notebooks are full of tornado doodles because even my pen can't sit still. When summer break landed, it brought a heat wave so brutal streetlights looked molten. Alex Miller, my fearless best friend, insisted Lake Mary would wash away our worries. A voice inside whispered, "Stay home," but I was tired of fear. So I grabbed my inhaler, jumped into Alex's dust-caked pickup, and told myself this would be the day I'd finally dive in without drowning in anxiety. The lake glittered like glass music thumped from Bluetooth speakers. Live streamers chased likes. And though something about the sky felt tense, I ignored it. I wanted to be brave, wanted to matter, so I sprinted down the dock, leapt, and for one shining second, I believed I was unsinkable. But silence, I would soon learn, can hide beneath the brightest water, waiting to pull you deeper than anyone can see. The moment my skin collided with the lake, the world exploded into silver needles of light. Cold rushed up my spine. For 2 heartbeats, I flew underwater like a kid in a commercial arms, slicing through liquid glass lungs, eager mind shouting, "See, you did it." Then something locked around my left calf, a knot, sharp shooting pain up to the back of my skull. At first, I thought Alex had grabbed me as a joke, but there was no hand, only muscles seizing so hard my toes curled. The reflex to inhale triggered water punched down my throat and panic detonated in my chest. I tried to kick free. The cramp clamped tighter. My arms thrashed, but each stroke felt slower, heavier, like swimming through syrup. Sunlight fractured above, music thudded distant, yet all I registered was the roar of blood in my ears and the sentence, "This is how people vanish." I forced one more kick, felt nothing beneath me, no dock, no friend, just depth. Then the strangest hush poured over everything, as if somebody twisted down the volume of the universe one notch at a time until only a single sustained note remained, a ringing you could almost taste. Vision tunneled, edges dimmed. I watched bubbles drift from my mouth in lazy spirals, beautiful, ridiculous, like tiny crystal balloons escaping a party no one survived. Fingers went numb. The ringing morphed into a low pulse that synced with the pounding in my neck. Slower, slower, until pulse and note slid into perfect unison, and then pulse stopped. I knew it without needing proof. A switch flipped inside. Every fear I ever rehearsed simply switched off, replaced by something colder than reason, yet warmer than hope. I can't explain how I left my body, only that 1 second I was trapped in it, and the next I was watching it from above, hovering maybe 5 feet higher. Weightless, invisible, removed. My body looked smaller than I expected. Hair drifting like dark seaweed arms, angled upward as if praying. Alex was a blur of frantic kicks, cutting toward me mouth open in a silent curse. On shore, people gestured, phones lifted, but all sound stayed muted like a film missing its dialogue track. I felt no urgency, no shame, just a curious sympathy for that sinking boy whose worries had always felt oversized. Now he seemed fragile, temporary, a shell waiting to be peeled. Water shimmered around me, yet didn't touch a halo of turquoise static. Then that too dissolved, replaced by blinding white. It wasn't empty light, it pulsed, living, almost breathing faint waves radiating through a floor I couldn't see. If a snowstorm and a sunrise could merge, this was their offspring. I looked for walls, found none, yet sensed perfect boundaries, as though geometry itself had been upgraded beyond lines and angles. Somewhere behind my perception, a chorus of vibrations layered, like orchestral strings warming up before a symphony, every overtone stitched with a hint of purpose I could feel but not translate. In that white, horizonless chamber, a thought voice unfurled, gentle yet impossible to ignore. It didn't travel through air, it bloomed directly behind my eyes, syllables made of memory and command at once. Still unfinished, Ryan. Breathe the unseen. Witness what waits. The words felt woven out of velvet and thunder, calming but undeniably directive. Questions formed, who are you? What unfinished mission? But answers hovered just out of reach, as though the voice preferred curiosity to certainty. The chamber shifted. Panels of light rippled outward, revealing faint silhouettes of coastlines, storm fronts, skyline fractures, images about to sharpen. My chest expanded even without lungs, as a sense of vastness, invading every scrap of the self I used to call Ryan Carter. Yet beneath the awe, another layer stirred, a promise of home I'd never named. Whatever came next would stretch the definition of possible, but for one pivotal heartbeat, I knew I was safe, held inside intelligence older than oceans. Then gravity reversed direction, the chamber blurred to white streaks, and I felt myself accelerating downward toward dark water, lungs, and pain. A splash of cold fire slapped me awake. Alex's elbow under my chin. Sunlight shredding my eyelids, and somewhere far above the surface, the echo of that thought voice lingered like golden ink suspended in air. Still unfinished. Ryan. More to see. Light folded in on itself, and I found my awareness drifting at the center of a colossal sphere. Every interior wall, a living screen that curved forever. The white faded into translucent layers of color like mother of pearl, and scenes unfurled across me to the surface, as if the whole planet were turning itself inside out for me to read its pulse. Mountains hovered overhead, oceans rippled beneath my feet, coastlines rotated in silent orbit, yet I remained motionless, suspended inside a crystal globe of prophecy. The first vision ignited over the Pacific. A superstorm the size of half a continent began to spin clouds stacked 30 miles high, like a titanic gray cathedral. Its eye glowed turquoise, eerily calm, while spiral arms lashed Hawaii, then clawed their way toward California. I watched rings of lightning encircle skyscrapers in Los Angeles. Transformers burst like flares. Highways vanished under churning brown water. Drone feeds, phone feeds, news choppers, all merged into one fluid panorama. Cries for help rose in 1,000 dialects, but reached me as pure vibration, a tightening in my invisible throat. Before that image could fade, the sphere rotated east. The Mississippi overflowed, swallowing levees and small towns in a midnight torrent. School buses bobbed like toys, gas stations exploded. Families clung to rooftops, lit by rescue strobes. Then my viewpoint shot north, where broken polar winds slashed Chicago with hail the size of grapefruits. Neon signs sputtered the loop, drowned in ice water. Each calamity arrived faster, louder, as if someone kept hitting a skip track button on the world's worst playlist. I tried to shut my eyes. Discovered I had no eyelids. The globe kept feeding disaster after disaster. Florida pummeled by back-to-back hurricanes. Kansas wheat fields baked to cracked parchment by a heat dome shimmering blood red. Beijing shrouded in amber smog for 3 endless days. the Sahel turning to salt dust, driving millions north toward chaos. Everywhere, the same prelude flashed, satellite dishes, went mute, conspiracy subreddits exploded. Stock markets, cratered streets filled with signs reading, "We were warned," but no one listened. Then something stranger appeared. Amid the wreckage, pockets of radiant light flared. In Manila, a fisherman pulled children onto a shattered pier, and they began to sing their voices, weaving a chord so pure it seemed to shove the flood back an inch. Outside Lagos, neighbors formed human chains for crates of medicine while praying in 3 languages at once. On a Montana ranch, a teen hammered solar panels together for strangers met online. Each spark flickered like a star bursting through smoke, and when enough appeared, they linked into constellations, a pulsing lattice of compassion stronger than any levee as those lights connected. A date materialized in gold script, orbiting me like a comet tail. 14 July 2025. The numbers glowed so hot they tinted the entire sphere. Molten amber casting shadows shaped like clock hands frozen at midnight. The moment I recognized the date, a warm wind, impossible inside pure light, swept through my awareness, carrying the scent of rain on freshly tilled soil promise, wrapped in petrichor.
14 July 2025 is not your doom, Ryan, but your doorway.
The voice, richer, now resonant, like a cello bowed by sunrise, seemed to speak from every coordinate at once, yet settled in the hollow of my chest, as if my heart had become a megaphone for mercy.
When the storms roar and the ground splits, remember this: I am with every cry that rises from the waters.
Heat flooded me, expansive, not burning, as if each molecule of fear was replaced by liquid courage. The sphere slowed its spin. Images paused on a wide orbital view of Earth. Auroras traced unnatural green ribbons over oceans, like veins lighting beneath transparent skin. Fault lines glimmered, crimson cities pulsed, electric violet, superimposed, as if a cosmic MRI revealed creation's energy grid.
Let compassion become your language. Let hope become your map, for the world will need both more than ever before.
Those words rang like cathedral bells in my skull, erasing a lifetime of insecurity. I saw myself tiny, yet undeniable, wading flooded streets, handing out blankets, wiring portable chargers, telling anyone listening that the ski breaking open was correction, not cancellation. Scenes unspooled of youth rallies on cracked asphalt drones, live streaming teenagers in circles praying for the next convoy of supplies. I felt the pulse of grassroots victories, homeless vets housed in retrofitted malls, abandoned. Big boxes turned urban farms. Bipartisan crews rebuilding levees while humming off-key hymns. Then the southern edge of the sphere darkened, revealing silhouettes of men in glass towers, screens glowing with maps and profit charts. Their mouths moved, but only a hiss reached me, the sibilant laughter of strategists minting currency from upheaval. Satellite feeds blinked off at their gesture, hashtags throttled, emergency bulletins rerouted. I glimpsed the tablet logo, 3 interlocking rings, the Veil Group awaiting payday in the silence of ignorance. As abruptly as it came, the silhouette vanished, replaced by a rushing tunnel of starlight spiraling inward. My mind tilted, gravity flipped, and suddenly I wasn't observing a vision, but falling through it. Colors whipping past like wet banners in a gale. Yet instead of terror, there was anticipation, like a match sensing the spark before ignition pressure, longing for flame. I knew my next stop was Flesh Lungs, the broken dock where Alex's screams still vibrated the July heat. But before light surrendered to lake water, the voice etched one final imprint, softer than the rest, yet heavier than stone.
Remember, Ryan, love is the higher tide. If you rise with it, nothing can drown you.
The letters seared to the walls of my consciousness like sunrise through frost. Then the sphere shattered into a billion shards of brilliance, each shard a pixel of blinding day, and I plummeted through the sunlight toward the surface that would either claim or revive me, still ringing with the echo of a date the whole world would soon speak, 14th July 2025. Either in fear or in faith, the lake hit me like cold asphalt. My chest jackhammered, vomited water, inhaled a flare of oxygen so hot it scorched my throat. Alex's fist thumped my sternum once more just in case. Then the sound rushed back. Sirens, screams, the crackle of someone's phone. On speaker with 911, but under all that rose a lower note. A subterranean hum I'd never heard before coming from inside my own ribcage. Paramedics hauled me onto the dock, strapped an oxygen mask over my face, and while they shouted vitals, I watched my hands glow. Faintly, veins lit by a pale blue current, pulsing in sync with that hum. A current no one else seemed to notice. In the ER, fluorescent lights flickered each time I exhaled. Monitors glitched into static whenever the date on the wall clock clicked. 1 minute closer to midnight. The doctor called it post-hypoxic hallucination, but I knew what I felt wasn't malfunction. It was overlap. A translucent second world phased in and out of the first gauze curtains becoming liquid silver ceiling tiles sliding aside to reveal constellations spinning just inches above my gurney. Every nurse carried an aura like stained glass reds around those burdened by anger greens, around the ones who prayed under their breath. And when Mom burst into the room, her aura flared gold shot through with violet worry, a sunrise fighting a thunderstorm. They kept me overnight for observation. Sleep never came. Each time I closed my eyes, the hospital dissolved, and I stood ankle deep in a river of light, hearing distant bells, seeing silhouettes cross a bridge made of words I couldn't yet read. At 3:33 a.m., the heart rate monitor beside me flatlined for half a second, though my pulse hammered fine in my wrist, and in that half second, the hum inside my chest sharpened into a clear voice that sounded like violins carved from wind chimes whispering through the water. Ryan, the veil is thinner now. Listen between seconds. The screen blinked back to normal, but every bulb in the corridor dimmed as if the building itself had bowed to something larger than electricity. Morning release papers felt absurd. How do you discharge a patient whose bones ring like tuning forks? I stepped outside and sunlight fractured around me into prism shards, each shard carrying faint echoes of the visions I had seen: storm sirens, children laughing in the wreckage, crooked men counting profit in the dark. With every breath, I tasted ozone and cedar, even though the parking lot smelled of gasoline, and every footstep set off a ripple of phosphorescence across the asphalt that only I could see, reminding me that gravity had not fully reclaimed its claim on me. Over the next days, mundane objects began to act like covert transmitters. The microwave clock froze at 7:12, no matter how many times Mom reset it. Street lamps flicked out when I walked beneath them, then roared back to life the moment I turned the corner. In the grocery aisle, a stranger's Bluetooth speaker popped and started playing a single sustained chord that matched the hum in my chest, making the hair on my arm stand up while cans rattled on the shelf in sympathy. People noticed the rattling, never the chord, and I realized the world was speaking in a frequency most ears no longer remembered how to decode. At night, I lay awake watching the ceiling swirl with soft, white filaments weaving patterns that resolved into the triple ring sigil I had seen hovering over corporate boardrooms in the vision sphere. Sometimes the rings rotated apart to form a doorway, and shadows gathered on the threshold, hesitant, as if they needed permission to step through. Each time, fear threatened to clamp my lungs. The earlier words returned like scented wind on desert dusk. Love is the higher tide. Rise with it. So I spoke into the dark rooms, telling whatever lingered that compassion was welcome here. Control was not. And the shadows recoiled, as if scalded by sincerity itself. By the seventh sunset, I discovered a new sense flickering behind my sternum, a radar of souls. I could stand on the porch and know which neighbors were grieving, which were nursing secret grudges, which were moments away from cracking under the pressure of invisible wars. Their emotions arrived as flavor on my tongue, sweet for hope, metallic for anger, bitter for despair. When I prayed serenity over them, I felt gusts of cool breeze ripple outward, even on windless evenings, and dogs up the block lifted their heads as if scenting rain in drought season. The climax of these shifts came the night I returned to Lake Mary alone. Moonlight painted the water pewter, cicadas hissed, yet the shoreline pulsed with that same blue current I'd seen in my own veins. I knelt at the edge, fingertips grazing the surface, and the lake answered with rings of light rippling outward toward every opposite shore. In the center of those ripples, a figure of pure radiance rose waist deep from the water. No face, only warmth, a presence the color of dawn, singing without sound. Instinctively, I bowed my head, but the presence lifted my chin with invisible hands, and the voice of violins within waterfalls spoke once more, quieter than thought, yet impossible to miss.
Ryan. The body is a door you may now walk through both ways. Stand between worlds. Heal the gaps. Remember what you saw and teach them how to see.
The figure dissolved into starlight that scattered across the water and sank like seeds. The hum in my chest settled into steady resonance with the night insects, and I understood the aftershock of drowning was not sickness but attunement. Something had recalibrated my marrow to heaven's bandwidth, leaving me half citizen of soil, half envoy of light, destined to interpret the tremors of a planet already stirring awake beneath the illusion of normalcy. July 14th, 2025. Only 48 hours after the sky cracked wide with an emerald aurora I still cannot name. I sat in chemistry while the substitute rambled about thermal decomposition, and the only thing I heard was the hum in my chest, climbing like a swarm of bees let loose in a jar. A metallic taste hit my tongue, the flavor that always precedes a weather anomaly. Seconds later, every phone in the room lit blood red. Tropical Cyclone Alpha Category 5. Unexpected landfall. San Diego in 36 hours. Classmates gasped. I tasted a tunnel of dread the way you taste exhaust in an underground garage, and knew the warning was only the opening chord of a much longer song. Hallways turned into echo chambers of rumor. Near my locker, Noah Reyes, the skater who died for 82 seconds on hot asphalt, pulled out his earbuds, sweat darkening his curls. Ryan the hum is pounding 120 beats per minute. Earth's heart rate just spiked. We nearly hugged, just to prove neither of us had vanished. Agreed to ride the wave after school behind the library where the Wi-Fi drops and the static sings. At 1817, Noah's battered pickup rolled north into the Ponderosa Belt. Once we crossed the cell service dead zone, the sky turned bruised violet and the air felt charged like someone had switched the planet to strong coffee. We climbed to the abandoned fire lookout, hauling lanterns and 3 hard drives filled with voice memos and glitch videos. Every footstep struck an unseen harp string. The ground quivered as if waiting for us to declare intent. When we reached the platform, the view tore reality open. Sheets of green and purple light waltzing over Arizona, a polar aurora hundreds of miles off course, announcing that normal had left the building. My dead phone flared alive, showed 0000 then flashed 1207-2025 like Morse code. An app I deleted weeks ago popped a banner. Live Awake feed. 412 users online. We opened it. The globe spun pins lit everywhere. Johannesburg, Bergen, Da Nang, Valparaiso, Anchorage messages streamed faster than breath. Glass vortex in Ha Long Bay. Dry thunder over Warsaw. Siberian ice glowing amber. I wanted to faint, wanted to cheer. The lattice of awakened hearts was no longer rumor, it was pulsing in real time. Noah filmed the aurora, then glanced at Flagstaff below streetlights, flicked off and on in sync with the hum. "How do you feel?" he whispered. I opened my mouth and every distant disaster rushed in like seawater salt of Panama floods. Smoke of Amazon fires, cold metal of a New York subway now underwater. Yet braided through the pain were sparks of stubborn wonder children singing in evacuation tents, a Filipina grandmother splitting her last sweet roll with a stranger, a soul hacker live streaming evacuation maps for free. The beauty hurt worse than the doom, and I cried until the horizon blurred. At 21, we pushed deeper to the stone slab Noah's grandfather called the place where sky meets dirt. When our palms touched the rock, it glowed ice blue. Runes raced outward, forming the triple rings, then mapping the same green lines Noah had witnessed in his death flash. The ground pulsed not an earthquake, a breath from something ancient under the crust. In that pulse, I tasted emotions that were not mine. Maternal worry, relentless hope, a plea older than language. Earth herself begging her children to remember her name. We set the hard drives on the slab like offerings read our vows aloud. Broadcast truth before algorithms choke it. Stocked community food banks before floodlines swallow zip codes. Teach neighbors to hear the hum instead of running from it. Wind whistled through the pines in a minor key, the slab warmed, LEDs blinked green, backup, complete, vow recorded. The descent felt like walking inside a drum. Thunderheads gathered, though no lightning struck. At 22:45, twin bolts erupted from a cloudless sky, scorched to the basalt cliff with 3 interlocking rings. A sign not meant for tourists, but for anyone watching through Veil Group drones. They would know Flagstaff had just locked into the network. Near town, Noah stopped at the diner where Mom preps sunrise pancakes. The neon sign rattled half the pea, sputtering out. He tapped the hood twice, our pact sealed, and the truck radio hijacked itself. Emergency tone, then a preschooler's voice reading last week's global temperature spikes like bedtime numbers. Noah mouthed, "It's starting," and drove off into flickering street lamps. I walked the final mile home, knees heavy as anchors, yet toes tingling like tide foam. Lawns exhaled mist, despite the drought. Porch beams creaked in frequencies I now recognized as syllables. Under every sidewalk, I could feel the lattice vibrating, thousands of strangers' pulses synced at 8 hertz, waiting to merge into a single wave. A year ago, I packed at the thought of reading aloud in class. Now, every cell in me ached to shout down the quiet, to tell my sleeping town that the moment of choice was inches away. And if we lock hands fast enough, the storm will not be a period. It'll be the ellipsis that ushers us into a chapter called Rebirth. July 17th, 2025. 3 days after the Aurora night. I came home to find a plain manila envelope slid halfway under the front door. No stamp. No return address. Only my name in block letters. Ryan Carter. My pulse stuttered. Mom was still at the diner, so I took it to my room, locked the door, peeled the flap. Inside, one sheet of white paper typed with an old ribbon printer. 8 words: silence is safety. Cameras sleep until you speak. No signature. But in faint UV ink along the bottom margin, I saw it. 3 interlocking rings. I snapped the bedroom blinds shut. My phone airplane mode still pulsed a weak signal battery stuck on 7%. No matter how long it charged, paranoia whispered, "Throw everything out live off-grid." But courage whispered louder. If they're scared of my voice, it means the voice matters. That night, Mom swore a black SUV idled across from the diner all shift long. Interior lights off. Engine humming like a hive. Its license plate bracket displayed a private security logo shaped like concentric circles. She thought it was some new tourism patrol. I knew better, and nausea wrapped a fist around my throat. July 18th. A push alert popped on every school-issued tablet. Mr. Jared Harrison has accepted a district transfer. Effective immediately. No forwarding email. His classroom sealed. His desk wiped clean. Only a faint ozone smell and a shattered stylus on the floor. Students shrugged, teachers deflected. I checked the county records site, his employment file scrubbed at 02:12 that morning. The same afternoon, Noah texted a single image drone footage of our stone slab clearing. 2 technicians in dark jumpsuits scanning the rock with handheld LiDAR. Our hard drives gone. Blue residue on the moss where the rings had glowed. Beneath the photo, Noah wrote one line. "We back up the backup tonight." I borrowed Mom's Corolla and met him at the city data center. Midnight Shift Guard was a church friend of his family, easily convinced we were working on a volunteer GIS project. We slipped into an auxiliary server room and uploaded our entire evidence dump, 190 gigabytes, onto a cloud mirror farmed to 5 continents. The progress bar crawled like sap, yet when it hit 100, a relief wave slammed me so hard I almost sobbed. As we left the building, static cracked overhead. Floodlights across the parking lot flared, then died. A voice carried on the PA system, metallic, genderless. "Unauthorized data transmission detected. Remain where you are." Noah grabbed my wrist, pulled me between loading crates. Phone's dark. Silence thick. Footsteps approached 2 figures with thermal goggles sweeping infrared beams. I tasted iron, thought about Dad walking out when I was 6, thought about never finishing this mission. Then a warmth bloomed in my sternum, richer than fire, smoother than breath.
Do not fear the shadows. Ryan, I walk the unlit corridors. I am light that learns every lock.
The words poured through, bone not ear. Lungs loosened. A corridor of calm opened inside panic. Noah's eyes widened. He'd heard it too. Between 2 heartbeats, both flashlights blew like popped bulbs. Glass raining onto concrete. The figures' cursed goggles sparking. Sprinklers above us activated, though no sensor tripped. Water fell short-circuited their scanners. In the confusion, we slipped out a side gate and vanished into the sodium glow of an empty avenue. Back at my house, 0247. Mom waited on the couch, hands shaking around chamomile tea. She'd found another note taped to the door. "Your son invites storms. Pull him back or watch him drown again." I knelt, explained everything. The drowning, the visions, the lattice, the threat. Tears blurred her face, but she never looked away. Finally, she whispered, "If this is the path God marked, we won't bow to men in dark cars." I realized resilience can sparkle even in calloused diner hands. Dawn bled peach across the street. Sirens wailed toward downtown sub, station fire transformers blown. Citywide internet outage due to heat stress. My phone's still offline, yet my chest vibrated with the hum stronger than ever. 8 steady hertz, like the heartbeat of a cosmic parent. I stepped onto the porch. Breeze tasted electric. Above the rooftops, a lone surveillance drone hovered, silent lens trained on our door. I raised my hand, not in surrender, but greeting. The drone pivoted, word east disappeared. Inside the threshold, I felt the presence linger, wrapping the house in quiet gold.
I am with you, through windowless halls, through broken signals. Speak truth, and the tide will carry it beyond every wall.
So the conspiracy had shown its teeth, but the higher tide had answered, and somewhere under the crackling sky, I sensed thousands more hearts, tuning to the same frequency, refusing to be muted, preparing to flood the silence with light. July 19th, 2025. Sunrise cracked the horizon like a promise paid in full. Every amber ray hitting my window felt wired to the hum, urging me to move. No more hiding behind private drives and burner accounts. If the Veil group wanted silence, they would have to drown in ocean because my lungs were done rationing truth. I started by clearing Mom's kitchen table, stacking notebooks, voice recorders, and the last working laptop, our Wi-Fi outage, hadn't bricked. I hit record on the webcam. The image showed a kid, still two skinny eyes, rimmed red, but the fear that once twitched under my skin had been burned off in starlight. I breathed, let the hum fill the pause, then spoke. My name is Ryan Carter, 16. Survivor of a drowning that wasn't supposed to end with a heartbeat. I saw the earth dream of storms and the date July 12, 2025 written in fire. I felt the planet beg us to remember her before we bury her under prophet forecasts. I am not special, only tuned in. I told them about the aurora over Arizona, the lattice of awakened hearts lighting the map, the triple ring symbol, and the men who monetize catastrophe. I stitched in the raw numbers Noah's truck radio had broadcast: ocean temps up 4 degrees, Greenland calving glaciers the size of cities, 500 million people already displaced by water or heat this year alone. Each statistic packaged in a story: the fisherman in Manila who sang children through a super typhoon, the grandmother in Texas who prayed as she handed out her final loaf of bread, the soul coder turning evacuation routes into public torrents the monitors couldn't delete. When my throat cracked, I paused. And in that silence, the presence arrived warm as sunlight on river stones.
My child, let the wound speak. Truth bleeds, but its blood heals nations.
The words vibrated through the mic, through the copper in the walls, through anyone already tuned to 8 hertz. I didn't bother explaining the voice either. People felt it, or they soon would. I laid out the mission in 3 breaths. 1, form local higher tide hubs where neighbors pool food batteries, clean water before the levees break. 2, hijack the algorithm with compassion, flood feeds with real footage, verified data, prayer circles, not the fear clips. Fail group boosters pay to amplify. 3, learn. The hum sits still, no headphones, ocean breathing until the buzz rises in your bones. Then ask it where to go. The guidance will not shout, it will lean. I dropped the first evidence bundle. Satellite anomalies, frequency spectrograms, Noah's aurora video onto a public blockchain mirror, QR code floating on the screen. Dared the sensors to try scrubbing decentralized light.
Build bridges, not algorithmic walls. I walk where mercy walks, and mercy never waits for permission.
I ended the stream with a simple challenge. If you felt hope spark while I spoke, that spark is your invitation. Film your sky map, your hum, share both before tonight. Tag it, hashtag higher tide. We rise together, or we sink alone. 10 minutes after upload, the view counter jumped by thousands, even though half the grid was still dark. Comments streamed from Lagos, Recife, Warsaw, Denpasar. Some called me a prophet, some a fraud, some begged for coordinates of the stone circle. Proof the movement needed guardrails fast. I replied once, guard your hearts, not the map. Any piece of earth becomes sacred the moment love stakes a flag. Mom watched from the doorway, clutching her diner apron. Tears, yes, but also that spark. The same spark I just handed to the world. She whispered, your father never stayed still when truth knocked either. I realized forgiveness could bloom quicker than wildfire if watered by enough courage. Phone vibrated, battery still at 7%, yet the screen overflowed with peer-to-peer pings. Teenagers forming water run crews in San Diego before Alpha's landfall. A retired engineer in Memphis offering designs for DIY solar chargers. 20 high schoolers in Flagstaff organizing a pop-up shelter at the closed skating rink. The higher tide was already lapping doorsteps.
Go, Ryan. The bridge you are becomes a highway when others step on. I give breath to every footfall.
I shut the laptop, heart ricocheting between ribs, not from fear, but velocity, destiny accelerating. Outside sirens gnashed toward the failing substation, but under their wail, I heard a chorus of cell phones across the block buzzing the same 8 hertz pulse. The lattice coming online street by street, and I knew whatever storm roared next, it would have to reckon with an army whose weapon was wildly inconvenient love. The The storm clock is ticking, friends. If any part of my story sparked a nerve in you, do something with that electricity right now. Smash the subscribe button so this lifeline keeps pulsing on your feed. Hit the bell so the next update finds you. Even if the grid stutters, drop a comment with your city and your hum experience so the lattice can find you. Share this video to one person who still thinks the sky is normal. Algorithms amplify whatever we feed them today. Let's feed them courage data and impossible hope. Tag your clips and posts with higher tide so the network keeps knitting tighter than fear. We rise together or we drown divided. Choose the higher tide and press publish.